Okay, so like I said, we're going to do data visualization today. And whether you realize it or not, you have done a lot and you've covered so much ground that if you are not revisiting those things you've done before, there is tendency that you might have forgotten some of them, if not most, because we started off from the very basics of Python, where we dealt with variables, data types. We look at some data structures like tuples, strings, lists. We even later consider a dictionary, but in a very short way. And then we moved to functions. We did loop, control statement, the if, elif, and else statements. And then we didn't do classes and objects. And I have my reason for not doing that for now. If you happen to be given an opportunity to take the higher class, if it's required, I may teach that. But I'll begin to make, well, before I talk about this one. So we looked at, then we moved to um, working with data with pandas. I know I've not talked about NumPy, but I can easily talk about that one before we do machine learning next week. So we started working with pandas. We look at how to create your own data frame. We started with series, some methods on series, how to create your data frame, how to load in your own data, how to rename some variables in your data. We also did some data manipulation using the group by and method and all of that. And then we even using the I don't know, did I mention aggregation function? Okay, I did that.
Yes, sir, we
I
used
did
it.
that. So we use that, and then last class we dealt with handling missing data, where we describe several methods. Like if you want to impute a constant value, or you want to fill a missing values with the mean, the median, or some other values. We even look at how to fill the missing values in several variables at a time using a dictionary. And then, under the data management, I know we were introduced to loc and high loc for subsetting data, selecting rows and columns and all of that. So one thing I just want you to keep at the back of your mind is that as a data scientist or data analyst, you will not always deal with the entire data at once. So Kudus, pay attention to this. You will not always deal with the entire data at once. Most times you will subset data, you will chunk the data into pieces to narrow on the question you want to solve. And it will not always be a single line code. No, you will break it down pieces by pieces, select the variables you need to focus on the main question you want to solve. Not that you are looking for a single line of code that we just solve the question, the whole question at once. It will not always be like that. And you will not always be working with all the variables at once. For instance, the COVID data, what you should get to. Also look at all the variables. Look at all the variables and think, which of these variables do you think will be necessary? We help us to understand the COVID-19 data. Obviously, you don't need all of the variables. And you can also define some heuristics. I love the fact that you wrote some comments. This contains this or number of these, so blah, blah. That's a very, very good attitude. But, define some heuristics that you want to use to select those variables. We call that feature selection method. It's part of data pre-processing, feature selection. That's what you're trying to do. Select some of those features, but why? Explain your intuition behind the selection. Explain it. No, maybe I want to define a heuristic that any variable that has more than half of the entire row missing will be removed. I could define that, but I will state that explicitly. And I will give examples of those variables that fall into that category. So they are not going to be part of the variables I'm going to select, but I've explained it there. Are you all with me? So in data scientist work, data science work is not just you are given data, you have a question you want to solve, and then you just go directly to it. That's not true. No, you are most time going to spend more time understanding that data. How do you understand it? One of the ways visualization, which we want to do today. 2, feature selection, spending time on those features, breaking them down, defining heuristics to select features and all of those things. We are going to spend more time on those stuff than just even building the model that we're going to get to next week. The building model will always be the last off. So I just want to put that at the back of your mind. I just want to let you know that, so that you won't think that it's as easy as that. Just get data, check the shape, check this, check that. Okay, do we have to feed it with me? We'll fill it with me and then we're done. That's not true. Okay, all right, so that's all those things we've covered. And today I just want to quickly expose you to how to visualize your data with Python. So the 2 main tools that you should familiarize yourself with is Matplotlib and Seaborn. Now, Matplotlib is the standard Python library for visualization. Seaborn is a statistical package, but is built on top of Matplotlib. Seaborn, because it's a statistical package, it provides beautiful plots than Matplotlib, but it cannot operate on its own without having Matplotlib. So what I'm going to do today, like I told you, it's going to be short. I will show you the Matplotlib way, and I will show you the equivalence of it in Seaborn. So, and all I'm going to use will be built-in data, but you are going to experiment is on the data you have. Is it clear? Dimeji, I know I've been expecting you to raise that. I know you ask questions.
No. The only question
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
The only question I just want to ask is that, is it compulsory that we use all these aliases, like as SNS, as PD, as MP?
Okay, tell me what you would have used if it was you.
I don't like the aliases. I like typing everything out in full.
Then you're not a good data scientist. I will tell you why. One, that means every time I want to use a function or a method in Pandas, I'll be calling pandas dot. I'll be calling pandas in full. And I can, one, it will slow me down. Two, wait. Two, you can easily make a mistake in typographical error. Three, other people will not be able to work with your code. You know why?
Yes,
Others will
why,
not be able to. Because in the whole wide world, in the data science community, they use pandas as PD. So if you are to collaborate with another one on a project and you write that, you will give the person a tough time working with that code because you are not using the standard form the community is using.
Okay, sir.
Do you get what I'm saying now?
Yes,
So
sir. Yes, sir.
when you are writing code, it's not just about you. No. That's why, do you remember I said comment your code?
Yes, sir.
Because it's not just about you, it's about someone else. Now, if you submit your notebook, because if you are working together on a project, we can use this. That's what we call version control using GitHub. I'm sure, I know most of you are not. Some of you might have been introduced to that, but majority are not. It's not so. GitHub, you can actually use version control by, we'll be working on the same project on the same code. I will have access to your code. You have access to my code. I can modify your code real time, and you can modify mine. So if we are doing that, then we'll run into issue. I'm using PD, you're using pandas. So if we run the same code, it's going to tell me I don't know PD, I don't, so we are mixing it together. So you should use, so these things, they are not by one person. Is the standard form accepted in the whole data science community.
I understand, sir. Thank you, sir.
So that was why I said you will not be a good data scientist. That doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. Okay. So that's that. So alias just means like a nickname, just like saying, call me Dimeji, not Ola Dimeji. Call me, like that. So that's what alias means. Okay. And you'll be using that in SQL when we get there too. That is a common stuff worldwide. So let me just quickly introduce you to different data plots that we can use to visualize. So we're going to talk about line plots. We'll talk about bar charts, histogram, scatter plots, violin plots, box plots, and all of that. Now, some of you are in statistics, like Kudus. Vera has some knowledge about statistics because I believe that, and I believe all of you. So what do you think we use a line plot for? Anybody? You guys are smart and you are.
For continuous chart.
What do you mean by continuous data?
Like to show like the relationship that exists between them over a long period.
Okay, Wes? Anybody? Vera, you've taken statistics course. What do you use line plot for? Is Vera sleeping?
No, sir, I'm here.
Okay, all right. What do you use it for? You've forgotten.
I just know it's for data sets.
What did I say? Oladimeji, my friend, what do you use it for?
I have no idea, sir.
Peter's, my name is also Peter, but not Peter. So Peter's my additional S name friend. What do you use it for? Peter has decided to mute his because it doesn't. Okay, it's not even here again. Henry. Professor Henry.
I don't know.
So, wow, that's great. Okay, so line plot. Okay, line plot is what we use to visualize or display a time series data. Kudus kind of have an idea there. It's just that Kudus says continuous data. A continuous data is kind of similar to time, but it will not always be. So a data is a data like that is indexed with time, like stock data, weather, the data about the weather condition. You know, those are time series data, and we use line plot for that. It's not like you cannot use line plot for other kind of data, but the essence of using line plot is mainly for time series data. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. For instance, there is a data here is a built-in data in Seaborn. It comes with the Seaborn package. So when you import the Seaborn, let me import Matplotlib to import Matplotlib.pyplot as Plt. So let me load this as com data and then give an example of a line plot. So let's load this and then let's check the head. Okay, let's check the head of this data. Okay, so this is a very simple and small data. But suppose the X and Y, these are continuous data, like time series data, and I want to visualize just the X. I can use, line plots. I can use line plots. So line plot just means using a line to connect the dots. Okay, that's just what it means. So the default plot function in Matplotlib is a line plot. So I can do Plt. Remember, we import it as Plt. Plt.plot. The default is a line plot. So if I call on the data and select the X variable, this will be a line plot. You see, there's a line plot. To beautify it, always call Plt.show. To remove all of these guys here, always call Plt.show. So this is a line plot. You can see it's very common in time series data, like I said, the forex trading data, stock market data, weather data, climate, and all of that. Those are time series data. So, so this is a line plot. Yeah, this is a line plot data. Okay, are you good? I can
Yes.
change it to circle if I want. I can change if I pass in zero stuff, it changes to something like scatter plot. But if you want line plot, the default, even if I want to change the color, I can change it. If I put GO, it's going to use green for me. So you can see, these are like creative hearts. You are creating hearts, you know, doing things like that. You want red, you can just put arrow. So, but if you don't do that, by default, it's going to give you a line plot. So this is what we call line plots. Okay, so remember, it's used to display a time series data indexed with time, data that talks about the changes in time and all of that. All right, so the next thing I'm going to move to is scatter plots. Okay, so let me show you the Matplotlib way and the Seaborn way. So let me use a different data in Seaborn called the tips data. So call on your SNS.load data set. And then let's pass in the tips data. It's a built-in data. So we can check the head. Okay, so this is the tips data. It's a very small data. You can check the shape. So it's just 244 rows. So it's a very small data. Okay, now suppose you want to remember, so scatter plot is a plot used to display two quantitative variables, two numeric variables. Like if I want to visualize, if we have a question that says, oh, is there any relationship between the total? So this data is about a restaurant. So where people that takes in the amount the people in dollars, the amount the people spent on a meal, whether the amount of tip is a usual thing here I'm not sure, I don't know if it's general for all countries, but I can say of the United States that in most, when you order something or you visit a food, you know, let's call it a restaurant, a cafe, and then you eat, it's common for them to give tip, like, oh, you give $2, you give $5, things like that. Or if you order something and they deliver it, it's common. It's not a must, but I've seen it as being the usual practice. So this is the amount of tip they gave, the sex, the gender, whether the person is a smoker, the day this occurs, the time, be it lunch or dinner, and the size of the restaurant, maybe the number of people there at that time or things like that. So that's all about it. So suppose we feel that there could be some relationship going on between the total amount someone spent and the tip. Maybe people who spend more gave more tip, or the people who gave less, who spend less, gave more tip or gave less tip. Let's say that's the hypothesis. That's the hypothesis. That's the claim. You know, you guys are taught, at least whether you're a statistician or not, you would have heard of hypothesis. It's a claim made by someone. I know in statistics, you guys deal with a lot of null, hypothesis, alternative, all of those things. Fine, but it's a claim. Okay, so suppose we suspect that, or we made that claim. So you want to visualize. Since there are two numeric variables, you can use scatter plots. So the Matplotlib way. So let me just call it Matplotlib way. You can see as I'm commenting, just for me to be able to. So we have Plt.scatter that will help us with that. And so if you press Shift Tab, it shows you the documentation, what you should care about. X represent what should go into your horizontal axis. Y represent what should be in your vertical axis. The S stand for the size of the point. How big should it be? The C stand for the color. What kind of color do you want to use? By default, it's blue. If you want to set it to red, you do C equals to red in quotes. things like that. Another thing, alpha talks about how transparent those points should be. So you can play around with them. So two variables. So the first, let's say we want the total bill to be in the x-axis. So I call my data tips. I'm passing my total bill. And then my y should be the tips and the tip. So I don't need to set the marker like we did here, putting O for, no. By default, if you use scatter plot, by default, it's going to be a dot. Okay, so I'm done. Then I can always label your graph, your plot. So if you want to label the x-axis, you use X label. X label, that should be the total bill. Are you guys with me? Y label, please don't sleep off. This topic is most time boring. Tip, and then we can show it. You can even give it a title, plt.title, and then you can call it plot of, or you can call it total bill versus tip, and then we show it, plt.show. So you see, so this is it. Based on this plot, what can you guys say? What do you say? What do you think is going on? If I ask you to explain this visualization, what are you going to say? Anybody? Where are the statistics students?
There is a linear relationship between tip and total bill.
You will know this guy is a statistics student. Linear relationship. Those are the words. Linear relationship. What do you mean by linear relationships? Break it down. I don't know anything about statistics, about anything. I just break it down, use it the language a layman person will know. What do you mean by linear, sir?
Like, I mean, if we are to draw a straight line here, like the line of best fit, we'll be able to see that for every value of, like, when tip is equal to 4, there is a particular point to show that total bill is equal to 10. Like, I don't really know how to explain it very well.
So that is one skill you are going to grow. It's not about creating plot. As a data scientist, you must be able to explain your plot in a simple way. It's a skill on its own, and that's why I threw it out there. I've tried this on even graduates, and they find it difficult to explain plots. So it's normal, and I'm not expecting perfection, but we are all we are here to learn. Uncle Dimeji, what do you think? How do you explain this?
I would say there is the two data, they are very, very related.
What do you mean by related? How?
I mean, they are linearly related.
Okay, go ahead. You are not wrong. Go. You just that I don't know anything about it, and I don't seem to understand the terminologies you guys are using. But go ahead, sir. Professor Vera.
I'm not a professor. It's Kudus and the nature.
Okay, Sister Vera, go ahead. Go ahead. What do you think?
Is there anything I want to say that they've not said now?
Say it. Say it.
I don't have anything to say.
You cannot explain the plot. Is that what you're saying?
I cannot explain it. All this linear thing you're saying me explain. Yes, I did statistics.
I'm exposing you guys at these statistics today.
Yes, sir. Okay. Can say as the value of tip increases, the other also increases.
He has got to check his notes. Kudus has got to check his notes. Right, Kudus? That's it. You're right. But Kudus just checked his notes, his statistics notes, to answer that question. Henry. Today is my day. I'm just going to be laughing at you guys. Okay, Henry, what do you think?
So this is my first time seeing this one.
Okay, all right. Kudus, you're right. Now, the language I want you to use. Now, you know why I'm asking you guys this? Because it's not about you guys, though. It's a mistake, and it's here, it's in every place that we data scientists or any expert in any field, we are mostly moved to make mistakes in terms of explaining because we fail to put our audience in mind. You must have a picture of your audience, the level they are and all of that. So assume that the audience doesn't know anything. You shouldn't use some advanced terminology. They are linearly related. Break it down. This means that even if I use the word there's an increasing relationship, positive relationship. Okay, there is a positive relationship between total bill and tip, meaning that as a person spends more, it looks like they gave more tip. So the more the amount the person spent in that restaurant, the more the tip they gave. Simple. That language is clear by anybody that understands English. As they gave more tip, that's what the Kudus meant by as tip increases, total bill increases, tip increases. That's what it means. The more the total bill, the more the amount someone spends in buying, products there, the more the tip they gave. Is it clear?
It's clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know this is not a statistics lab, but it's part of data. Large chunk of data science about statistics. So have you heard about that? It's about statistics and maths. Yes. In fact, when we get to machine learning, just I will not want to go into the math. It's all about vectors in maths. Some of you did. Vera is doing applied. Is it applied maths or something like that?
Yes.
So it's all about vectors. Machine learning is all about vectors. All the computation going inside is all about mathematics. It's all about mathematics. Someone who is sound in math should be very good in AI. It's just that theory in Nigeria is what is killing everything. But it's all about, so data science is about statistics and mathematics. Yeah. We're only using a programming language to teach it. So it's not about the programming language. No, we can use R to do machine learning. Some people use Java. We're choosing Python because it's the simplest to understand as far as we know, and the most popular. But the data science itself is not the programming language. No, the concepts there are just statistics and math. All the models we're going to be talking about, they are statistical models. They are non-linear models. But let me reserve those things till then. Let me calm down and relax till that time. Okay. All right. So we've looked at, so let's look at the Seaborn way to do this guy. Look at how the code we have to write. We have to, this is the main line doing it. This is just giving us the label for the x-axis, the y label, the title, and the show. Let's look at Seaborn. So let's call this Seaborn way. I'm already taking more time. Okay, so SNS dot scatter plot. Look at the x-axis. So let's look at the documentation. So the main thing we need to specify also the x, which represent what goes in the x-axis, the y. And scatter plot as Seaborn has additional argument called EU. Suppose I want to separate, I want to know, to dig deep into the data to know the sex, the gender too, in terms of incorporate the gender information in this relationship I'm trying to view. I can specify that in the EU, the third argument. So this is the data component and all of that. So let's just put that there. So our X still remain this guy. So X, so but instead of specific, here using, we have to call tips, the data, and then select the variable. In Seaborn, I can specify the variable directly. Total bill. And then my Y, I can specify that too as the tip. And then I can now specify the data, the entire data, which is tips. That's all. The next thing is just to do Plt.show, because I told you Seaborn is built on top of Matplotlib. So if I do this, look at it. It's automatically labeled it for us, the x-axis and y-axis. And we can give it title using the Plt.title and all of that. If I copy this guy now, just this one, the title, I can come and put it here. So it will give it a title for me. And if I want to separate it by the sex, I will just use the EU argument I talk about to see and look at it. So Seaborn is more beautiful than Matplotlib, and it's kind of simple if you are familiar with the library. So see, it tells us the blue is for male. It creates legend for us and put it in the right location. This is for male, blue is male, the orange is blue, the orange is for female. That means that even from here, we can see that the males gave more tip than the females, right? So even the males gave more tip because that's the blue. You can see, though they are both increasing, that the more they build, the more the amount they spend, the more the tip. It looks as if male spent more than the female. You can see the blue here related to the x-axis, and you can see it related to the y. So males, they spent more and they gave more tip. I don't know if that is clear to you. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's the Seaborn way. So let's look at histogram. Histogram is a plot used to display a single quantitative variable, a single numeric variable. So if you want to do that, suppose we just want to look at, maybe we're interested in, what is forget about the sex, the gender, or what is the highest amount of tip given. So we don't care who gave it, the gender that gave it, or which day. We just want to look at, for this data we have, or what is the total, the maximum, the highest amount spent in this restaurant, to see if people are really spending more here, or we need to bring in some other food, some different kind of food that are not here, so they can spend more. So if you want to visualize that, you can use histogram. So the Matplotlib way, so histogram, so the Matplotlib way to do that would be using the Plt.east. So we can do the Plt.east. And then we can, this is the data, we'll select the total bill. We want to look at the total bill, the distribution of total bill. It also has the beans argument. Beans means how many, the division, how you should divide the plot, like the bars. How many bars should you use? Should you use 5, 10? So that will go into number of into beans. If you don't specify anything, I think by default is 10. So, but you can override that. You can override that. Okay, so I think those are the main thing is this and all the beans. That's all. So if we don't want beans, I don't need to put any other argument. So let's just do Plt.show. Can see. So this, remember, always label it. So if you want to label, I've shown you how to label x-axis by doing Plt.x label, y-axis Plt.y label, title Plt.title. That's all. So you can see, so by by default is 10 beans. You can also use 5 if you want. That's 5. So this telling us that maybe the total the bill spent is around 20 $15 to $20 thereabout. But this is the weakness of histogram, that sometimes the bins that you send can change the distribution of the data. Look at it. If I do this one, I can interpret it that the highest amount was actually around 15 to 18 thereabout. But when we use smaller number, it covers up to 20. So that's the weakness of histogram, the setting bins and all of that. So you have to be careful. Okay, so that is that about Matplotlib way of doing histogram. And then you can also do the same thing with Seaborn. So you can use there's something called the dist plot. Before it used to be dist plot, but I think in the new version of Seaborn, we have what we call, you can say dist plot. So, but the two will work, but dist plot is recent and it's kind of interesting. So these are the arguments there. So this plot is called distribution plot. By default, you can get, you just have to specify the kind of plot you want. The default one is the histogram. So you supply the data, you supply the variable you want to visualize, you want to check the distribution of, and then another one, by default, it will give you histogram. That's why the kind is. But I can change it to a density plot by sending the kind to KDE. I will show you that. So let's say we want histogram, the Seaborn way. We can supply the data. It doesn't mean the data has to be the first. I can put my X to be the variable I want to visualize, which is the total bill. If I'm too fast, please let me know. The data is the tips. That's all. Then the kind by default is, so I don't need to do that. So Plt Show. And look at it. It's even more finer than that other one, clear. So you can see it gives us, this is the Seaborn way for histogram. So this tells us that the most people, the amount people spend most in that restaurant is between between around like 12, around 13 to 18 thereabouts, you know. So that's that about the histogram. Do you have a question before I show you the density plot? Any question? Is it clear?
Sorry, sir. This plot is not working on my own Jupyter notebook.
Have you imported Seaborn?
Yes, this one.
It's not this DISPLOT.
Yes.
It's not working.
It's saying that it's not in the module.
I'm not the one that created this this function.
That's the error. Module Seaborn has no attribute dist plot.
Can
someone
else verify that?
This too is not.
This too is not working.
And I've been using SNSS. Yes, it's working. It works for the scatter
plot. Does it work? Dist.
None of them worked. Like I just tried the Seaborn library now.
Kudus, can you try that? Kudus is not here again. Vera, can you try? Are you on your laptop?
Don't worry, I will find it because the model is working. The scatter diagram.
Once I'm done teaching, we can look at that.
I will.
Okay. So if I want a density plot, I will just set the kind to KDE instead of histogram. Okay, you can see. So a density plot can show me that the highest amount, highest amount of total bill spend is still around that 10 to, we can still say $10 to $20. You know, that's what most people spend in that restaurant. Yeah. Okay. So so we've looked at scatter plot, we've looked at histogram, we've looked at density plot. The last plot I will show, okay, well, let me show box plot. And we use box plot to display a single categorical variable and a single quantitative variable. Suppose you want to, we're interested in which, that question I showed you there, that, oh, which gender gave the highest tip, like the more tip. You know, we've used scatter plot to kind of answer it, but we combine it with total bill. Suppose we are just interested in the which gender gave more tip, just tip alone, whether male or female. So we are dealing with gender, which is categorical, and we are dealing with tip, which is quantitative. So then that means we are talking about one categorical, one quantitative plot. So we can use a box plot. Now, the Matplotlib way is a little bit stressful. I will show you that, but I will use it to explain another thing in case you don't know how to do that. So the Matplotlib way for box plots. I hope you guys are learning one or two things. Okay, so to do it, let's look at the tips data again. So remember I said we want to look at which gender gave more tip. To do that in Matplotlib, you might have to first subset the data to have this data to break them down into two kind of data sets. One to contain only male, one to contain only female. This is because in your PLT, if Plt.Box Plots, if you press Shift tab, it only takes one argument, which is the variable you want to visualize. For instance, if I want to visualize the tips by the entire data, like tip, if I want to do that, I can do that with box plot, but that's for everybody, including male and female. But suppose I'm interested, I want to visualize it, we want to know which gender gave more tip. It will be difficult to use Plt.Box Plot with the entire data without first breaking the data down. So you might need to break the data down, like, let's say you have tips _ female to be all the data for just female alone. So we'll call our data tips and select the sex variable and say where this sex is equal to female alone. This is what we call subsets. Okay, we can do that for males too. Male, and select the data where the sex is equal to male. You can check to see if your data actually work well. So let's check the male. You can see this will only be for male. And if you do that for female to that only, so we've subset the data we've broken it down into two forms of data. So this particular one has all information about male, this has information about female. So most times you will find yourself doing this a lot. Okay, so now we can go ahead and use Plt.Box Plots. So in our X that you saw the last time, this X, we'll just pass in this as a list, like tips for female, tips, that's the female data, and select the tip that we want to visualize. Tip for the female, we can do that too for the male. Tips, let's pass in the male data and select the tip. Okay, and then let's give it a label so that it will know which one is female, which one is male. So this is female, and then this is male. Okay, we are done, and we can show it, Plt.Show. So this now, we can see, so from here, remember you can label the y-axis as the tip, so this will be Plt.Y label, that's the tip. So this shows that male gave more tip than female. Okay, for those of you who have taken statistics before, box plots actually mean there are a lot of things you can get from this box plot. Okay, the line at the middle is the median. That's the median value. That's the median tip in this case. So you can see that both the male and the female, like the male gave around close to $4. Like the average tip given by the male is close to like around $4. The female is around $3, or both of them is around $3 to $3.5 dollars. And then so that's the median. This is the lower quartile. For those who have taken statistics before, it means they've 25% of your data. So that's the lower quartile. So they normally use Q1, things like that. So it means the first 25% of your data gave around $2 tip, and the remaining 75% gave more than $2 tip. This is the upper quartile, Q3. So it means is the 75% of your data. That means 75% of the male gave around $4, and only 25% gave more than $4. This is the minimum. The minimum. And this is the maximum. So all these dots, the remaining dots, they are outliers. Outliers are unusual variables, meaning there are 5 extreme special men that gave more than they gave more than $6. Only 5 of them, and that's unusual. That's why it is termed outliers. Only one female gave around more than $6. That's why it's an outlier. So outliers are unusual observations. Okay, is this box plot clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so to do a box plot, look at all we have to do using Matplotlib way. Let's use Seaborn way. So Seaborn way, we just do X and X. It has a categorical plot, cat plot. Okay, in this cat plot, you can specify different plots you want. It's also used to visualize one categorical variable and one quantitative. So those are what will be in my X and Y. Then I will specify my data too, and then the kind of plot I want, and then my data also, I'll put that there. Okay, so my X, we said the X should be the sex. We don't need to subset the data using Seaborn. We don't need to. My Y will be the tip, and my data will be the tips data, the data we're using here. So the kind of plot I want, let me say kind should be box plot. So that'll be box, and then let's do Plt.show. That's all. It's even finer. Look at it. It labeled the X axis for us and the Y label. And look at the plot. Look at those outliers. Look at. So do you see the beauty of Seaborn? That's it. So the same information, we don't have to go through subsetting and all of that. We just got it in a single line. Is it clear? Are you guys there?
It's
So
clear, sir.
I'm having errors, sir.
Your own, so it may be that the Seaborn is not properly
Installed.
So what
Because
you
the
can do,
Matplotlib was okay, but the Seaborn.
yeah. So what you can do, I will don't worry. Let me finish. I will show you. Let's finish. Yeah, I will try 1 or 2 things. Like I will see if it will work. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's the any question on this cat plot? Any question? Are we good? Are we good? You guys are too quiet for me today.
We're good, sir. For good, so.
Okay, so well,
Well,
that will be the end of the plot. So we've looked at histogram, bar charts, box plot, scatter plot. We looked at that in both. I can change this to a violin plot if I like. I can change it. You know, this is a violin plot. It's still kind of the same information, but the box plot is very clear. Because this now, if you don't understand how to interpret violin plot, you won't know that this long tip is talking of outliers. So it's better to use box plot. Okay, so if there is no question, this is where I'm going to stop. Because there are not many, we don't need to split you in different rooms. We just have to make you share